everyone needs their SOPs. And yeah, are they important? Yes. But no one is going to look at them.
No.
Like they might reference part of it, but even then, if it's written in a way where it's like boring as hell, like no one's going to give a crap, right?
Yep.
I'm a big believer in it needs to be the actions. Like, what is the action that they actually have to do? They're not going to read some like theory stuff or like, okay, these are like 50 things that like talks about insurance verification or whatever. It's like, what do I actually need to do? Like, give me the steps, make it into an actionable plan. And if I don't understand one step, then give me the reference of how I need to do that step.
Okay, so one of the things I've been probably bitching about the most recently, Alex?
What? I haven't talked to you in a while, so what?
I know, right? I feel like we've been so busy, like, without any type of, like, babysitter nanny around that it's like, work, kids.
And it doesn't like overlap. Like we don't have, like kids together usually. It's kind of like handoffs between each other.
Yeah. It's like we're changing shifts. It's like
It kind of is actually.
Like shift nurses.
Shift workers, not nurses.
Well, that's just where my head goes when I think of shift work. But yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like 3:00. Okay, switch. Give me a debriefing.
Kind of, yeah.
But no, not on that. I mean, I know that's true. We really haven't had time to talk about it much. No, but the biggest challenge I've had probably like the last year or two is that like kind of slow deterioration of some of the systems that I had when I was we were full owners of the practice versus like transitioning over, right, and selling to a DSO is just kind of the because you try not to take your foot off the gas, but there also becomes an issue when you have like multiple owners in any business. Like who handles this, and you think you have it all figured out, but you don't really have it figured out. And then there's things that no one wants to do, so then no one does it, right? But one of those things that's kind of slowly deteriorating a little bit is just like training and making sure everyone's on the same page. And once you've gone through that, third or fourth hygienist after selling or third or fourth office manager after selling, I know it seems like a lot, is just them remembering all the systems and stuff that you had before.
It's not even after selling. I don't think. I hate training. Like it's, but it's like after the third or fourth person you come on board, you're just like, oh, just follow me around. Like just do it. You know, like I don't want to train you. I don't want to talk to you because I know you're going to probably leave in like 4 months.
I had that image in my head of like, did you ever watch Prison Break? You remember the one guy who was like the creepy one in that? And he always had the guy that was kind of like his bitch, and he would always just make him put his like hand in his pocket and he would just follow him around. That's how I envision you taking around a new hire. And you just open the side of your pocket and someone I don't know.
I don't know how to take that.
So anyways, we figured we'd bring on someone that we've had on a few times, and I feel like every time he comes on, we get really good responses from, listeners on his stuff being like very, just something you feel like you can actually use,
useful,
right?
Yeah,
useful. Not when we're just like talking
don't
dumb
do what
right?
we did. Yeah, just the mistakes.
So we have, Dr. Green back on, or Chris, right? And we wanted to go through kind of what he's done recently to try to address this issue, because he said he was running through a similar thing, right? Where it's, I'll let him tell the story, but kind of where things are falling through the cracks too. So we'll let him kind of explain to us how he's kind of solved for this issue that we're having too.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, guys. I think, we were talking a little bit pre-show here on the direction to take this, and I think that the episodes, you've had me on, we've gotten pretty tactical. We want people to be able to go implement different things in their practice and go away with some real stuff that they could throw at their team and office to help it run a little bit more smoothly. So looking forward to diving into this, and we'll try to cater it for people at different phases of practice ownership. But I agree with Alex. This stuff, it doesn't matter pre-DSO or post-DSO. You do get just exhausted repeating yourself because we're, as we've talked about before in the dental practice, it's about doing the core things consistently over time and not letting those things fall through the cracks. But it's also then from there, if those things aren't in place and you want to go add something cool, like that you saw at a CE course, or you heard somebody, hey, is using AI and you doing XYZ, the foundational stuff still has to be running smoothly for the patient experience and team experience. And it's like we're always repeating ourselves, and sometimes those things fall by the wayside when we're having like the person that was not onboarded perfectly is now onboarding the next person, and it just slowly deteriorates, I would say.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us like what happened recently with you with, I think you said it was with hygiene, right? Where you ran into the situation.
Well, I used hygiene as the model, so let's just start with hygiene onboarding. Basically, uh, one of my I've been a systems guy since I opened. Like I was like, I want this to run smoothly. I want to have systems, that's going to be great. And then people use checklists and blah blah blah. And we talked about some of that before. And it sounds really freaking boring, but at the same time, like a lot of it works. But then you're like tweaking and reimagining things, and over time you start to ask yourself, is this all it is over and over again? And what a boring place to be. But really at the core of it, running a really good practice is about like that compounding interest of the consistency. And I'm mostly in the coaching realm now, helping people get their offices run smoothly and allow them to scale and escape management more and cut down a little of their clinical. And a lot of that has been taking some of our own processes on some of these core systems and getting it down to just the minimum viable step for the team, because the team isn't going to sit there and remember your whole ops manual. But as we talked about on the last call, like if it's a cancellation call coming through, what is like the one thing that I want them to remember when they're on the phone in the heat of the moment? And what is the one thing I don't want them to say or whatever? So really, I don't want to say dumbing it down, but kind of like just simplicity. There's power in simplicity of the right succinct steps. And that's what I've been kind of working towards with some of the core things in the practice.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. So, I mean, let's go through hygiene stuff then. So you said you had that issue where there was a hygienist that I think you had said had been on for like a year or two, and you had brought up like, hey, we do this thing, this X, Y, and Z thing, and they had said, oh, what are you talking about? And I think then you were like, oh shit, like I got to make sure like we kind of get back to where we were on it. So tell us kind of what you started to do to get everyone back on the same page.
Yeah. So going upstream from that a little bit, um, there's different phases of practice ownership. Let's call it and let's use team member numbers as the phases of growth. So 8 team members or less, it's kind of like the owner doctor's probably still pretty clinical, has their hands on the pulse of hygienists and assistants, and maybe like a front office lead or an office manager kind of handles a lot of the management for them. And then the next phase might be like 8 to 12 or 8 to 15 team members. And now it's getting chaotic for the office manager. They're getting worn out. The doctor's getting a bit worn out from all the management stuff because there's just almost twice the volume of team members. And that's where we have to start empowering other leaders in the practice. Like, oh, this person's going to lead our hygiene department. This person's going to lead the assistants. Office manager kind of handles the front office and oversees helping the leads in the back office, et cetera. And then you get from like 15 to 25 team members in these growth phases, and that leadership really needs to be dialed in, or that's when you see these posts on Facebook where people are just completely burnt out from ownership. And it's not, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but in general, there's ways to hedge your sanity from a lot of that. And so I think the point I was bringing up is as you go through these phases and you lose some key team members, maybe team members that were there helping build those original systems, the next people that come on get like a watered down version of it. And then after that, it's even more watered down. And then you're like, wait, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
and you're like, wait, that actually worked really well. We should probably do that again.
Yeah. Wait, we're not collecting money? Wait,
Yeah.
that actually worked. When we collected money, we actually did better. We should do that. I know there's some random things that have happened to me over the years where I'm like, oh, I thought this was like the main thing that we were supposed to do in relation to like verifying benefits, right? Or if it was some system. And I was like, oh crap, like we aren't doing that anymore.
Yeah, it gets lost kind of in translation as you're like, okay, I'm handing this training off to someone else who may or may not know it well enough. And it's situational too. It's like, oh, I'm teaching someone like an assistant or hygienist in the moment. Oh yeah, this is our protocol. But for someone else that comes on, they might not experience that type of patient or that situation. So they miss out on that. So it becomes this like unstandardized training, and it's just like a big freaking
It just becomes
cluster.
like a game of telephone, right? Like it by the time it hits the fifth person, right? They've we've all watched that. It was that reality show that you were watching that had like all the celebrity it was all the celebrity siblings. Remember? And then they had to do they had to do that one game.
Ones,
they had to do it was like the Jonas Brothers guys.
Yeah,
that's actually it was entertaining. It wasn't that.
Was it low point.
Was it quality TV? No, that was.
I like the prison.
When we actually had time,
better.
when we had time, that's how we spent our time together. Is watching
still not talking, just
shitty reality TV.
Just watching.
No,
TV.
but anyways,
Well,
in that show, what I was saying is they started it, and it was kind of a fun game where it was like one person started with a message, right, and then they had to like run and then tell the next person.
Yeah,
the
like
message.
an obstacle
and
or
then they had to go
something.
do, and then they had to send, and then
But
the
it was
next
a riddle
person
that they
got it.
had to memorize. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like something normal, like go do this thing that's easily, remembered. It was a really odd riddle that they'd actually have to pay attention to each of the words, and most of the time they always got it wrong. So
Because by the time it went to the fifth person, it was like
completely
it
wrong.
was completely wrong, and it just made me think of what we were talking about. Where I'm sure every time you give information to someone, and especially verbally, right? Like they're probably going to pick up 50% of it, and then the other 50% they either misremember or don't remember at all. So then by the time they tell it to someone else, it messes it up. So like I'd love to know, Chris, if we go into this more, how you can solve that, because it seems like the problem becomes like, how do you keep that initial like core system or that model when you're not there anymore and you've removed yourself or you've gone through that third or fourth office manager? How do you keep everyone getting that initial information that you created the system for correctly or whatever?
Yeah. And I think we're referring to kind of like the foundational elements to how we want the practice to run. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it's necessary to kind of help us as owners not go crazy from things just not getting done properly, or collections, or whatever, patient experience like you referred to. We do want to allow a certain level of creativity and updating of systems and bringing in technology or better ways of practicing. We absolutely need to make room for that. But what's the 80% once the practice reaches a certain level of maturity and you're like, okay, these things that we do in these various areas of processing patients work, so let's keep this and make sure everybody knows that these are kind of our non-negotiables, right? And that's kind of led me to a little bit of what we wanted to talk about today. And it comes back to onboarding. So early in your office journey, you might be developing systems and processes, and they're needing updating because you realize something doesn't work, or you add an adjunct procedure or new technology that makes things more efficient. But then as you go, you have more and more team members, and you've kind of refined your system. So you're like, okay, well, we've had a certain amount of growth. Systems are pretty refined. We're happy with where these things are at, whether it's new patient experience, cancellations and confirmations like we talked about, onboarding at each position, processing patients in the back, case acceptance through treatment presentation and collections. Those things are all not going to change a whole heck of a lot, I don't think, once you feel good about how the practice is performing, and hopefully that stuff's documented. And so I'll stop there for a second and hear you guys chime in, and then I'll get into what I've kind of started doing to hopefully capture the 80-20 of the onboarding.
If you like our podcast, check out Alex's newsletter, Just 2 Minutes. It's full of great advice, which makes sense considering it's her thoughts and not me sidetracking her every 2 seconds. You can subscribe at coupleofdentists.com. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the pod.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of problems become like you delegate at first. Like when you're starting out in your career, you're just like, oh, let me just like delegate this thing. Like I don't want to do it. I'm doing clinical stuff. I'm running the business or whatever it is, and you kind of get the order mixed up. But like obviously the first step is you got to like do it yourself. You got to document it and like do like the data dump of like all the things that you need to do and setting up those systems and then trying it out and then delegating it so that when you are at that point in your career where you've had, you have 15 plus people, you can now delegate it knowing that that system is good. It's not just like, oh, I'm leaving this up to chance. There is a system in place and you just like plug and play.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think too, Chris, and what you were saying earlier, it was some podcast I think it was a podcast we were listening to a while back. And if it's any podcast, you've probably listened to it first, Alex, and then you like send me the link and you're like, you listened to it too.
Yeah, I'm the filter.
Yeah. But I think it was Google, right? Wasn't their whole, going back to the whole part you were talking about with like giving people like some creativity with stuff, right? And kind of doing like that 80-20 thing. Is it Google? It's some bigger company that allows their team members a certain amount of time to just work on side projects, right?
Yeah.
And I think, isn't that how either like, I don't know if it was Maps or if it was some feature that like is very popular with Google, and that was created out of just a side product that an employee was just working on, right? Yep. And so it gave them that freedom to where they kind of felt like they had, they still had to adhere to like the standards, but then they also had some time to just do their own thing. I mean, I don't know, for me, like this is just personal, but I know like if there's something that I got to do around the house more, right? Like let's say I got to do like the kids' laundry, right? Hey, I do that now. I have been for the last 2 weeks. If I hear from you and you're just like, do the laundry and this is how it's done. Like, even though I know that's the best way, I still feel like there's an inherent human thing. She's going to get
That's
mad.
Not human.
She's going to get mad
It's
when I
not
say
human.
this.
It's a you not listening to me
me not listening. But no one, I mean, because at its core.
How creative do you need to be?
No, but I'm just saying, though, maybe Chris can back me up on this because it's a 2-on-1. But like, we still like to feel like we have some freedom, right? Even if we know we don't. Like as husbands, we know we don't really have any freedom, but we still like to feel like we do.
Does that outweigh like getting yelled at for me when I'm like, why did you put these in the dryer? Right?
No, but I'm saying like going back to that, like if I know like, oh, I got to get the laundry done and they got to be clean and not dirty, but like if I have a little bit of freedom, I feel like I'm like, oh, it needs to be done here, but like I like to put this and this together, or I like to wait for that. Like if I just have a little bit of freedom on how I do stuff, I almost feel like a little empowered by it versus like I feel like I got to follow every single step that Alex says. Like I'm a robot. So I like it when
I'd rather you just be a robot.
I know, right?
I would.
Right, that's
I
my
would say
tangent
we have to take ideas from these great companies when we hear cool things on podcasts, but they're in more of the creativity business and they factor in like this is innovation. How much? I mean, innovation on the clinical side of dentistry, huge. Innovation from technology and efficiency of processing patients, big, but a lot of our team members are not out there actually listening to the podcast, going to CE, educating themselves and bringing back the best practices.
Yeah.
They just come back with ideas that they thought would be better or they learned at their last practice, which the last practice is not as good as this practice. And I'll tell you that right now. So to your point, I agree, but I think it's a little different in a service business where it's kind of got to be predictable and we don't have these sweeping changes in our industry. Dentistry changes and dentistry move very slow, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it's funny because you said 80-20 when it comes to like creativeness and being able to update your system. I heard update your system and he heard creative. And I'm like, that's very interesting how you still think wrong.
Well, no, I mean, it makes sense with like service.
No,
but
I know.
In the role. And you guys are right.
Yeah.
You guys are right. Because even like in service industries, it's like if you're working at like Subway, like you can't give your employees like you could give them creativity if someone was like, make me a cool sandwich, something you like, right? And then like the employee be like, I'll try something new, but like you can't just give them the freedom to like change out what like a Italian club looks like, right? Like it's got to have a standard, and I get that. Dentistry is closer to that than it is like Google, right? And
I'll give you an example.
Role, right?
Like we went to Ruth's Chris last night for my birthday, and it's been around a while. When you go to Ruth's Chris, you're expecting the same thing, the same experience. it's not like they've had to reinvent the wheel on how to cook a steak, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they add little tweaks like, and maybe I just haven't been to enough nice restaurants, but they're like, oh, would you like a white or a black linen? I don't know if you guys have been asked this, but it's like if a team member came with something and say, hey, for the patient experience, what if we added this little tweak that might add a little flair
Sure.
to the whole thing and just sound a little more upscale? Could we do that? Great. But you're not going to say, oh, this is a new way of taking the x-ray. Like it's just,
Yeah.
this is just how
Absolutely.
you freaking take a PA of
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
3. And so
Absolutely.
there was
So yeah,
a
would
really
you like
good book,
a green
The
bib or
Power of
a
Moments. Did you
blue
guys
bib?
read that book?
Yeah.
The Power
The
of
what?
Moment. The Power of Moments. It was like a
No.
marketing type experience book for service, and it was mostly service industry, and they had a lot of cool ideas. So if anybody's trying to be creative, maybe you give a team member that book, and maybe they come with something innovative on the tiny tweak. Like we'll use the linen example just because it's fresh in my mind, and now it feels like a little bit of an upgraded experience for the patient. But
Yeah, I love
yeah,
that. And I do like taking things from other industries too. Like I dentistry is so like boring and it's like,
Yep.
yeah, the next guy's probably not doing it any better than anyone else. But yeah, going to like restaurant business or yeah, something else like a spa or whatever it is. I think yeah, there is some creativity that can help dentistry.
Yeah, there's another one. I went to one of these massage places recently, and it said like take a moment without your phone, like was on in the waiting room, right? Oh, I was like that'd be cool. Like in the in the waiting area, we have a lot of moms come in. Take a moment to yourself, and even put your phone away. Even if nobody's getting, even if 1 out of 10 people do it, and it was good for them to get just a breather on their own with away from kids. I don't know. It's just a reminder. So yeah,
But
those little
that even shows like even if that's one of those things where if like even if they don't do it, people still appreciate that like it kind of feels like you thought about them. So even if they don't do it, they're like, oh, it creates that like, oh, these are probably like, I'm assuming these are good people, right? It created a moment even if they didn't use the moment.
There you go. That's really well said. But so let's get more tactical towards like how we deal with the 80% of the things that aren't going to change. And I'm just picking the 80/20 because everybody knows that rule. Who knows what the percentage is? I don't really care about that. But I had this experience where the hygienist that was with us since the day I opened was here from the 3 to 8 team members, and then the 8 to 12, and then the 12 to 25. And she saw the changes and helped us implement the tweaks because systems break, right? As you scale and add more team members and processes, you almost have to be more defined on how we go through the day. So anyway, we onboarded a new hygienist, and I had given a little bit more leniency on creativity. But what I started to see was new patient numbers were going down, and hygiene numbers were good, but doctor numbers were getting worse actually. And so I said, well, maybe I gave too long of a leash on freeing up for creativity. And like I said, like the things I put in place were well researched, well tested, because I'm out there at CE events talking to hundreds of doctors all the time. And yeah, my hygienist is never going to be able to compete with the amount of knowledge that we have out there in learning best practices, right? And so I saw some of these systems start to erode. And then also the onboarding was a watered down version. So anytime a new hygienist came on, it was a watered down version of that person's onboarding, because things are forgotten, or it's just like, yeah, go look in the operations manual. Well, nobody's going to read your whole operations manual. They never are. So how do we simplify it and get them all the things? And so, through coaching and things like that and this experience, I said, well, what if I put this all in one presentation? So I started doing it as like the onboarding. So the 30, 60, 90, everybody always says, oh, you got to have a 30, 60, 90. Okay, great. You might have that, but then you have a fast learner that could get the 90 days done in 3 weeks. And then you have a slow learner that it takes them, 120 days. At the end of the day, we want them to get this knowledge in the fastest amount of time possible, so that they're up to speed in the practice and we can move on to the norm. And so I kind of just took the 30, 60, 90, and I didn't lay it out in time frames because for hygiene, I feel like they're usually an easier onboarding because they've got a little more education. The job's kind of less, in my opinion, nuanced than maybe the front desk. And And there's a lot of not really a formal front desk training out there, right? And so I took these things that I wanted to make sure they knew about in the practice. The starting with culture, patient experience, how we process patients, what X-rays are needed, what the standards are for diagnosing perio, and using laser and these things. And I laid it out, and it ended up being quite a few more slides than I expected. But I was grabbing things from the operations manual and basically putting in, let's say, like a Cliff Notes version, okay? And then I took that and I recorded in 20-minute videos so they could watch it maybe between patients or during their onboarding time, find time during onboarding. And I kept it to 20 minutes just to keep their attention, right? And they could get all that stuff in chunks. And hopefully most things aren't, and I said, get a notebook out and take notes while you're watching these things. And hopefully they capture all the little systems and things that we do in the practice, so that I don't show up like a year when somebody's been here a year and I bring something up and they're like, oh, I never heard about that. And I'm like, oh, I thought we did it that way for years. And they're like, oh, we don't do it that way anymore, or what? And so just standardizing the onboarding more, making sure things don't slip through the cracks. And then they feel better about their experience because they were given a better the answers to the test, so to speak, on how things are done around here.
We all know Eric wants more friends. If you're enjoying this episode, share the podcast and then tell them to DM Eric so he can hit his quota of 1 new friend per day. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, that's smart. I mean, because I don't know. I always had that issue where I always told Alex that she had this issue.
What issue do I have?
No, with like onboarding or with training people, is that like I think sometimes they feel like they're drinking out of a fire hose, right? Like it's just so much information. It's so fast.
I'm good at that. Yeah.
You're good at that about like
blasting them with 1,000 things and telling them to remember.
Yeah, because I think you remember things. You remember things. You don't forget things, which I know from firsthand experience.
I don't forget anything.
Yeah. And I feel like then sometimes we feel like everyone else thinks the same way we do, right? Like you think, I'm a fast learner. Everyone's a fast learner. I'm a slow learner. Everyone needs more time, right? So I like that. I think that's smart, is to kind of take this big operations plan. It's like an employee handbook.
Yeah.
Man. Like no one reads that shit.
I know.
Like they aren't.
There's a big thing. It's like, oh, everyone needs their SOPs. And yeah, are they important? Yes. But no one is going to look at them. Like they might reference part of it, but even then, if it's written in a way where it's like boring as hell, like no one's going to give a crap, right?
Yep.
I'm a big believer in it needs to be the actions. Like, what is the action that they actually have to do? They're not going to read some like theory stuff or like, okay, these are like 50 things that like talks about insurance verification or whatever. It's like, what do I actually need to do? Like, give me the steps, make it into an actionable plan. And if I don't understand one step, then give me the reference of how I need to do that step. So I think, I don't know. That's my little rant on it.
I think it's a bit of, so this was just kind of I've always tried to look for better ways to have it retained by the team as well, because so many times you might have this really in-depth system, and the way a lot of our dentist brains work is to give them, but they're going to forget about this. I better write this down. It's like, they're going to forget about it anyway. So just write the most important piece there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an upgraded way that and maybe it's obvious to people, but to kind of systemize our office, for example, and there's going to be tweaks to your office or the next office. But to just go say, hey, go watch, there's these companies out there, and I probably shouldn't name any companies. They're like, oh, there's this front office training. Go watch this. That might get them like 50% of how we should operate, but your practice is going to be different. It's not plug and play. This isn't McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a good point. So I was talking about this with one of our other buddies, and his complaint, not being a dentist, but having a wife that's a dentist, was just that he feels like in a lot of these, like, a lot of, consultants or even coaches, right, will just like have their method for something. And it's like, but every practice is so different. Like you were saying, it's not a McDonald's. So I feel like one advantage you probably have now kind of going into that realm is like you've lived it as a dentist who's grown it, and you understand that like I had a practice in Colorado. We grew fast here and here. This is how I wanted to build my practice, and then I built systems out based on that. You might have another dentist who's in rural Kentucky, and like their goals are different, right? And so I feel like I feel like one big issue with the whole dental industry right now is that everyone just takes a course they built, or they have something and it's like it applies to everyone. And it's like, if you actually wanted to solve things the right way, you need to first figure out like, what do I want to build? And then how do I build that, right? Versus like like Chris did his practice this way, so that's how I do it. Well, no, that isn't true. You don't know if you had the same goals as Chris, right? You may not be in the same area. You may be in an area that can take fee for service and Chris couldn't. You could be in an area that is in like the projects and you got to take Medicaid, right?
And not to mention all the, like just the logistics and all the tools. They're going to use something different than you. So it's like not everything is going to be cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Right?
So I feel like that's my like tangent or rant on that, is that I feel like if I was going to tell something to dentists, like everyone needs help, right? Like Chris has had tons of great coaches, I'm sure, and tons of great like mentors. But find someone who just doesn't give you like blanketed advice for everyone, and make sure that they're actually diving into like what you're looking for, because it changes the system, it changes the goals, it changes all that.
Yeah, and teaching is a lot different. It's different when we ascend, and now we have to teach people all the time. So you might say, well, how do I build? This sounds like a ton of work, Chris. I'm never going to do that. Well, can certain people in your office build it and record the videos for you, and you give them some of their own admin time to do this? Or are they not capable enough as a teacher, or will they learn and get better through this process as a teacher and trainer in the office? So these things don't happen overnight, but this should be the direction that we head for each position, assistant, hygienist, front office, treatment coordinator, revenue cycle manager, whatever you want to call that position. And then the level up from that would be, what does leadership look like in this office, and how do we train people to be leaders? And so I took that for each position, and then I've developed a leadership training that I call, I don't know what the best name is going to be. I'm working on it, but let's just call it the 12-week leader, because it's like in 12 weeks, if we dedicated 90 days and meet with our leads once a week, can we get them like up to speed on how I want the practice and the team led, and make it sustainable? So now I could enjoy actually feeling like a CEO, and they could handle all the stuff that I don't want to handle, And so that's something I've been building out for coaching clients and stuff like that. And after that, hopefully we have the flywheels open, and we could start running with different ideas in the practice, and have our regular lead meetings where we're innovating and growing and looking for different ways to make the practice better.
So have you gotten any feedback from the team members on when you've kind of taken, your huge SOP or your huge operations manual and kind of like chunked it down, like you said, into something that's maybe more digestible? Has anyone like said, oh yeah, I'm actually feel like I'm like learning it? Or have you noticed from your end, like, oh, they're actually doing things better now because of this?
Yeah. So one hygienist that she's just lovely. She's been with us for probably a year and a half. And this was the person that she does an amazing job. But I realized like her onboarding, we didn't go over certain things. And she'd been a hygienist for a little while. And it's not like anything wasn't running smoothly or anything. It's fine. But I said, hey, I'm building this thing, and I ran through it with her, and she's like, oh my gosh, this would have been great to have a year ago, Mm-hmm. And I said, well, good. We lost a couple hygienists for various reasons. With the new ones coming on, let me know how it works. And then for you all, because they have a department meeting every other week, I said, if so, every department breaks off and does their department meeting every other week, and it's an hour. I said, take the first 20 minutes over the next few sessions and just watch the 20-minute videos at a time, because I broke it up into those kind of segments. Now, I don't know if 20 minutes is the right time frame, but whatever their attention span is, because we know everybody's learning a lot differently these days. Like Addison and I have the dental hygiene manual is the newest positional manual that we just came out with. And it's good for a reference, but it's not like day to day somebody's going to stop between patients and be like, oh yeah, what was that next step I was supposed to do? But it's there to kind of fold time for people as you're like, where do I even start with building systems? and then you take it and, to your point, customize it to your practice and your philosophy and your environment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, so how do you, Alex, on like, because you guys are both more systems people than I am. Like my head went to when you were explaining that, Chris, was, all right, cool. Now the hygienist is like, I wish I had this before. This is nice. How do you make sure? And this can be a question for you, Alex. How do you like make sure people like actually do it and are accountable? Because it's one of those things where it's like, you tell people, they're like, I like this. This is good. I should do this. But then like you have to make sure that not only did they digest it, but if it's their job as like a leader or a team lead to make sure that like they're pushing it to other people. Because I feel like that's the biggest issue is like making sure it's actually getting done.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big checklist person and it better be checked off, that sort of thing. It's like, there's that piece to it. And then there's the owner or the office manager, whoever that lead is, that they still need to follow up and make sure that that is checked off. So it is two pieces. It's not just like one person doing it and leaving it up to like, oh, let's just hope it gets done. It's like, no, there's a follow up to it of, did you get this done? Are there questions? Let's clarify what needs to, like, do I need to tweak the system? Maybe it's so messed up that it, you have to redo it. There's these feedback loops that you need from someone. So that's where I always focus. It wasn't just like, oh, just hand me this thing, make sure you do it. It's like the follow-up and the audit that comes with it.
We first need to have the right people hired, right? And so when you're smaller, it's easier to have your finger on the pulse of what's going on and who's slipping through the cracks. And then how the checklist is great, but even the best people can fall off the checklist. And then we have our one-on-ones, and the one-on-ones are kind of broken up into 4 quadrants. So the first part of the conversation is just a cultural review. Hopefully we're all still aligned with culture and core values there. The next quadrant of that goes into what we're speaking to here, the consistency with the systems. And I write out as like, grade yourself on these 7 things. And it's not that it's the reminder too, so that when they're reading that before their one-on-one getting prepared, they're like, oh yeah, I know that he said, I know I should be properly handing people off at checkout, and I've been kind of slipping and doing more of the drive-by handoff lately, so I better get back on that. I should talk about that in my one-on-one today. So we have to have the right people that are self-aware. And then as you scale, hopefully those leaders are the ones holding them accountable in real time and also on one-on-ones. So it's never going to be perfect, guys, but that is the best way I've found to keep it consistent and keep things happening. The one other thing when you're looking at finding the right people, were you ever big on the Kolbe test, Kolbe?
Yeah. So we've done them. I don't know if have you implemented that?
Dude,
Not implemented, but like
confused on all the different ones. Is Kolbe the one that's like are you like an I, a D, an S, or a C?
Yeah, is that the
No, that's
one?
the disc.
That's disc. I literally just said.
Is it the DISC one?
Yeah, is it the DISC one? Yeah. No, is Kolbe the one where like
the numbers?
Is that like the fast start or slow start?
Yeah,
or like,
so it's
yeah.
fact finder, follow through, quick start, implementer, and it's more about. It's pretty easy. It's just about how people go about doing things, and it's $50. But my love language is people with a high follow through. So if you're a 6 or above on follow through, I'm going to probably expect that you're even higher, really 7 or 8 for some of my like executive assistant and like office manager. I want them to have really high follow through because I don't want to like ask somebody, hey, did we take care of this, and wonder if it's been taken care of. Like if I have that 8 on follow through and I ask, I know that thing is going to be done within, however a reasonable time frame is. And yeah, I'd like the loop closed at some point, but at least I feel good walking away and knowing it got done. If you have somebody that's a 3 on follow through, there's a lot of things that require follow through in any business. Are they going to succeed in our office? Well, maybe not.
Well, yeah, they might not be the right person as a manager, right? Because a lot of their task is.
Well, the whole thing is like task oriented and dental, for the most part. They should, go make clay pots or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's your follow through? Do you remember?
Oh, mine's low. I'm not a follow through person.
Well,
I'm not much of a follow through, and I'm more of a quick start, and then whatever the last one is on like fixing things. I don't like to do that.
I know.
Well, quick start is often like the book Traction, the visionary, right? Brings the big ideas, but then needs a sidekick that could implement the idea. So if an office manager and the owner are both quick starts, jack shit's going to get done. You're going to have all
Oh,
the
and that
Yeah.
happened. That actually
Yeah.
happened to us. Like, because one employee we had who we both liked her, like, as an employee, personally, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Kind of could do a little bit of everything. But her personality was hers was closer to mine, where she was like more maybe like high energy, like outgoing, maybe more charismatic, but like forgetful and like didn't have follow through on stuff. And it did not work when it was like, you should, we just thought like, oh, she's been with us long enough. She's smart. Like, she's not stupid. And yeah, she'd be good as an office manager. Right. But then, you don't really track to see if that personality type fits that role. Like, I would be terrible as an office manager.
Yeah, the visionary stuff's exciting, but then you want to see it implemented, and we can have all the coolest ideas in the world. If they're not implemented, it's useless.
Yep, exactly.
And so that you have to look for that balance based on the personality types. Now, I'm not a big quick start, and that's kind of why I'm boring with the systems and consistency stuff. But a lot of my friends are quick starts, and we have fun conversations, and they have brilliant ideas. And then it comes down to, well, they better have an office manager, some boots on the ground that could take those ideas, make it understandable to the team. Because a lot of times the team's like, well, that's cool, but where do we even begin? And then kind of give them steps to follow through and implement. And so I think that's an important thing to just recognize for those that are earlier in ownership and haven't ran across this yet. So, and it helps you understand how you operate. So the Colby test, I'm not like one of these nerds that knows it to the nth degree, but I know enough of it that I could use it as a tool for some of these things that we're discussing.
Yeah, what did you ever find, Alex, with office managers? Because I know we always.
I kind of left before we had like.
We were always like, we had 2 locations, right, Chris? And so they were both probably at 8 to 10 employees, probably total. Like, 1 to 2 hygienists, a few assistants, a couple people up front, right before we had sold. So we didn't get to like the level of like your practice, which was probably needed more like of more structure, right? Because it had grown so big. Because I mean, how many employees did you have, like, rough, before you partnered with the DSO? Where were you at?
25 at our flagship.
Yeah.
And then
So
five or so at the satellite.
Yeah.
But if I were to do it all over again, and some of this AI stuff will hopefully help us not need as many team members, but still you need team members that are making sure the AI stuff is still working and links aren't broken and all that. So it's almost like, okay, so if you could do what Chris did with 10 less team members, you could do what I did with 25 with 15. Well, there's still somebody that has to go and make sure all the insurance verification and those processes are still working and blah, blah, blah. And make sure, so there's auditing even of AI, I think, at this point, in my opinion.
Oh, and there would be, just because if, like you said, if you treated it like an employee, you still, like you said, you still have to audit the employee. So I think a lot of people think like, and I think a lot of it's just all this hype stuff, right? I don't think, we're like just not old enough to have really experienced like the .com boom, right? And like, the late 90s, early 2000s, we were still like, middle school age or like starting high school. So we weren't like in the workforce yet. But anyone I talk to who's a little bit older is like, this is exactly how it feels, right? Everyone comes out and makes these big freaking claims that AI is going to, it can verify 100 insurance things or 100 different or can push out claims and can verify your insurance and do 100 of them in seconds, and it's 100% accurate. And it's like, dude, a human wouldn't do that. And then if you talk to anyone who actually is a developer, it's all bullshit, right? It's just people trying to make a quick buck. So I don't think it's fully there yet. I think it's going fast. But a lot of our friends who, are coders, right? Or they develop stuff, like they'll use like Claude to like help code, but they still review the code, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of us dentists just think like, I think there's a lot of dentists now who think like, oh, I could just create my own thing now, right? Like I can just vibe code it, but you don't know how to code yet, man. And like if you didn't know how to do that, it wouldn't work. Like what did I ask? I I was curious with how ChatGPT was getting, like, how good is it getting at like differential diagnoses, right? And looking at stuff. And so there was a case that I saw that came in that was a pretty standard like diagnosis, right, on a patient that I was like, you could look at the X-ray and you could pick 2 or 3 things pretty easily. And it was above an implant, right? And it was at the like apex of the implant, right? And so I ran it through ChatGPT, and I was like, what's your differential here, right? Like I made sure we didn't put patient information or anything like that, right? So it didn't mess up with anything like that. And it came back with a differential, but it assumed that it was a natural tooth still, right? Like it still effed that part up. It didn't realize that it was an implant. So I had to correct it. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. I missed that. That isn't an actual root. That's an implant. So like it still screws up on that. So when you hear people say like, I've got the smartest thing ever, and it's like, yeah, maybe you're getting there. But you're right. You would still need an employee to make sure and verify that everything's being done right. So you still need the system. You can't like use AI to say like, now I don't need a system.
Well, it was just like with online scheduling. Oh, sweet. People could schedule online. And then none of the online appointments showed up. So there were no shows, right? So then you needed a system to confirm those patients so that it wasn't just a waste of the schedule and marketing dollars. And so,
well, it happens to us too. Like we use like an AI receptionist now with stuff, and it's good for like taking all the after hour calls. And it's honestly, it's nice to patients. It's trained well on that piece of it. It's like not rude, doesn't yell, right? Any of that kind of stuff. But like, it's not perfect. And even the person who we're using, like they admit, like this isn't perfect. It's not great yet. If you say, I need to schedule in my, I just went to the endodontist and got my crown or my root canal done on tooth number 3. I need to get my crown done, right? It's not going to know how to handle that. It'll probably schedule that as a limited exam, but it won't know to take it from my planned appointment in open dental and like time it out exactly where it needs to be and put it right in the schedule. Like that kind of stuff, it's not perfect at yet, right?
Well,
I think it'll get there. And so you still need someone to, what?
Sorry. Oh, I was going to say, even if it does, or when it gets there with like, oh, sweet, we could just press these couple buttons and the whole insurance breakdown's done. We could just have the AI agent do all the scheduling. This is still a service, high-touch business, and people, whether you're PPO, fee-for-service, Medicaid, people still need to hear from other people. So we're going to have to find that balance. And I sure hope it requires us to have fewer team members, because every personality in the practice is a potential benefit, but there's also a potential liability there, right? Because people can change over time. So less team members, more efficiency, higher touch experience for the patient, and I think everybody wins.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. We get there. I think it'll be fun times. But we're not there yet. And to your guys' point, we still need to have SOPs, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, yeah, Chris, it's always awesome when you come on, because I feel like we give I feel like I always leave our conversations, and I'm hoping listeners too, with like, okay, I feel like I can actually like take something from this. So no, I appreciate it. We'll just have to go through. I'm I know you've mentioned it a couple of times before as I don't think you've named it yet, but about like your 12-week leader thing on people. So once we need to get you back on and maybe kind of go through some of that stuff, I think that would be pretty interesting to hear like how you're training leaders within the business.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'll share some stuff with you and we could spitball back and forth on that. And maybe I won't be so boring. Maybe we'll have some more quick start fun ideas than just, hey, do you want a black or a white linen tonight with your meal?
I know, right? Nice. Well, thanks for coming on.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.